Hello again, folks. It's Tommy here on behalf of Equipping for Life, and today we're delighted to have with us Sir Nigel Hamilton, one of the patrons of Equipping for Life. Nigel, good to have you with us, and maybe you'd like to begin, Nigel, just by telling us a little bit about yourself, your early life, your education, your work background, and what you find yourself doing now and these days. So over to you, Nigel.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Tommy. It's lovely to be part of this. I came from North Belfast. I was educated at Finiston Primary School. Sadly, no longer exists. And I ended up at the Boys Model. And I'm a great, passionate supporter of the work of the Boys Model School. I left the Boys Model, went to Queen's and did psychology. And at the end of my time in Queen's, I had two choices, either to stay and do a PhD or to join the civil service as a graduate entrant. So I joined the civil service and I spent the next 38 years in the civil service,
right.
Largely around physical development stuff, roads, transport, etc. But I was fortunate enough to become a permanent secretary in the Department of Education. And then between 2002 and 2008, I was the head of the civil service, which was an amazing end of a journey that started for me in a 2-up, 2-down house in North Belfast.
Well, so life began, we might say, I suppose, relatively simply, Nigel, and progressed to the heights of, I suppose, as high as you can go in the civil service.
That's right. Now, I mean, two things I would just say about my early life too. One, I had very, very supportive parents who believed that education was extremely important. And secondly, at that time, for the first 24 years of my life, I attended Crumlin Road Methodist Church. And that's why when Equipping for Life was first set up in the sort of Shankill area, I could very, very readily and personally identify with it.
So you have not only a sort of historical growing up in the area, but you had a faith connection back to that area through church as well.
Very much so.
Well, obviously, the area where Equipping for Life has initially been working, North Belfast, is an area of disadvantage. And in fact, it would be one of the primary areas of disadvantage in Northern Ireland. So why is it important, Nigel, do you think, for young people, especially from socially disadvantaged communities, to have the best possible start in life?
Well, for the very reason that you say that anyone coming from a disadvantaged area is coming from a background which is probably, hasn't the same sort of financial resources that others have. But the one thing that every young person has, Tommy, is potential. And that potential can be developed and brought out through education. And as I just said a few moments ago, I mean, my parents were strong believers in education. In fact, my mother and father were in a parents' association at school long before they were even established.
Right.
But education is the way that so many young folk can actually progress through life, because it's about their own innate ability, and it's about that supportive environment that they find in schools particularly, if not always at home.
And so, I suppose Equipping for Life, as you folks will know, provides that link between having church volunteers go back into education to help people with learning, particularly with reading and mathematical issues. Nigel, you talk about being from the civil service in the background. Some folks will know that when you were head of civil service, it was a period not long after equality legislation came in, and so we know the need for people to have equality of access to learning and equality of access to life. But Equipping for Life is without any sense of proselytization, but yet it's a Christian organization. It's an organization based on Christian principles, and it's releasing now a couple hundred volunteers weekly into schools in Northern Ireland to help, particularly primary school children who struggle with reading. What role do you think Equipping for Life, as it goes forward as a Christian-based organisation, can play in helping young people aspire to greater things in the future?
Well, look, I'm a strong supporter, Tommy, and have been from day one when Brother David spoke to me about it. Equipping for Life brings with it a whole series of volunteers and folk like yourself and David and others who've got the best possible value base in life.
Mm.
And I'm a great believer. I always was in the civil service. I couldn't always, to use your word, proselytize, but I could use the value base of honesty and integrity and respect for others, etc. And I think Equipping for Life individuals bring that value base to each child, but they also bring the spiritual dimension that, life is more than just what we can see and touch and feel. There is a spiritual dimension to it. So those who are involved can have a spiritual background in terms of prayer and continuing support. And there will be a commitment to it from the individuals to each child to help them develop. And of course, it's extremely important, even in an age of social media, etc., that people can read properly and spell properly. And if you can't read and spell properly, Tommy, then I think you've got a even greater disadvantage in life as you try to move through. And it's hugely important that anyone who involved with Equipping for Life has that vision, that they want to encourage young folk to maximize their potential, to be able to have the maths and the skills in life, and also to have the attitude in life that will enable them to be successful.
Indeed, and I know Nigel, that Brother David is very appreciative of the fact that you, in many ways, for him, are an example of someone who can start off on a 2 up, 2 down in North Belfast and not allow the circumstances necessary that surround you to limit the potential you have if you apply yourself. And I suppose in the future, Equipping for Life does want to create those models that young people can aspire to. So Nigel, we're very appreciative you take even 5 minutes today to share some thoughts with us, and we're very grateful for your ongoing support and being a patron of Equipping for Life. A young charity, only began in 2018, so a fledgling enterprise, so to speak, but we're delighted that you are supportive and are supportive of young people aspiring to a better future in Northern Ireland. So Nigel, thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure, and I wish you well, and blessings to everybody who's involved in this. And also, just finally, Tommy, one thing, as well as Equipping for Life, it would be remiss of me not to mention the tremendous support and educational environment that we find in these schools, so that the school teachers, I'm sure, and the principals will be very appreciative too of Equipping for Life, as together we work to enable these young folk to have a much brighter future than might otherwise be the case. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be involved and to be supporting of the work.
Thank you very much.